and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody. Welcome inside a Tuesday episode of Running Point on YSNLive.com. Brought to you, as always, by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Eric Bailey, who is once again taking the spot of Ty Bartell today as Ty travels back home from Tennessee. EB, you're here for the whole show today. Welcome back.
Yeah, man. Tennessee. Hopefully, Ty gets through Kentucky okay. It's a mess down there right now.
The good thing is I think he's flying, so I think they're
Oh,
just going to
well.
hop right over Kentucky.
Well, then that's a very good thing. So I think he's going to make it through.
So you think right now driving through Kentucky is a mess?
Well, like all that flooding and everything that they've had down there. Like I don't know, what parts, but if you've ever driven through Kentucky, like even as far as I know, like you have like 75 and like 71 that branches off coming out of Cincinnati, like through most of it. It's only like a 2-lane highway going down. So it's not like you have even like a 680 or, a turnpike. So you get through some of those hills and those mountains with the amount of rain. I mean, what they got like 8 to 12 inches in like an hour or 2 hours. It's something astronomical.
That's it. That's something that luckily we haven't had to deal with in this summer. We've had a very dry summer, and it helped us have a very successful summer season with baseball and softball. But that's tough to go through. Flooding rains.
Well, something had to give because I feel like this spring was not very kind to the softball and baseball folk, especially starting out. We always know March and April are kind of a crapshoot, but this year it seemed like nothing really broke through until like the end of May or mid-May at that.
There were some teams that were lucky to get 10 games in the regular season. I mean, imagine that happened to basketball. There were so many snow days that like you guys could only get maybe 10 games in if you were lucky.
Well, yeah, that'd be terrible. But like, so I guess here's a question, and this is going back to spring. But if you're a coach and you only get 10 games in, and whatever your tournament draw is your tournament draw, you play 2 or 3 games in the tournament, and then you still have it's the end of May, graduations next week. But do you slate like 10 extra games to try to like get in those games, those regular season games, or do you kind of just say, hey, we're going to do 1 or 2 just for our seniors, this and that? Because I feel like once you lose in the tournament and you're that deep into it, your seniors are kind of, I don't want to say it's true for all of them, but they're kind of checked out. They're like, hey, we graduate next week. We're moving on. This part of my career is over. And then your younger classmen, you're starting to battle, summer ball, different, you're dancing into June. So you're getting into, high school basketball where they get their 10 days and people are starting to transition to that fall sports. So would you sit there and try to schedule, the remaining games?
I would love to, but then you'd have to have that discussion with your team. Like, how many of you would really want to play these games? How many, I wouldn't want to do it if I got 5 people that wanted to show up and play. Because like you said, softball, baseball is hard because you're going right into summer and you'd have to be not only fighting, graduating in a week and summer break in a week, but you're also fighting the travel ball that starts almost right after high school season ends. it's like it's not, there's no rest, and kids want to get out to their travel teams, and
Well,
especially the kids that have aspirations to playing at the next level. They want to get out to where they're going to get exposed to recruiters.
yeah, in June, like I don't think people really realize how busy of a month June is because you're cramming in like a winter sport. You're starting to get into your summer ball stuff. Volleyball is starting to pick up, and if you have kids who still do, not only travel softball, but people AAU teams are still prepping because they're trying to go into July, which is a heavy recruiting month. So when people sit there and they're like, oh well, it's spring break, you should have that time, and that's not even including vacations or trips or little weekend
Right.
things. Like I know from an AAU standpoint, like I don't do anything June. Like go do stuff with your school. Like that's more important. Or look, you have a vacation, go to the Bahamas or the beach or whatnot. I'm more jealous than I am anything. But a lot of people don't realize for high school kids how busy June is, and I think it's very important you give those kids breaks because the summer leagues, the games, this and that, like you can create a lot of burnout real quick.
Yeah, and like I hate to single out one of your players again because we talked about it last time. But Maddie Lesnack, I know she plays on the Thunder Elite team for softball. We played against her in the summer. Also plays volleyball and basketball, and then plays for you for the Lakers. So that June, like you said, you don't do anything in June, but still busy June, getting ready for volleyball, doing the Springfield girls basketball, and then doing travel softball as well.
Oh yeah, and I just look at, not only her, but even like some of the girls that I have from Boardman, or little Ellie Gregorino, or I could probably name quite a few to where they're multi-sport athletes when they have to be multi-sport athletes, especially small schools, and I try to explain that to a lot of different organizations. We're pulling a lot of girls who graduate maybe 80 from a class, and that's a big class around here, with the exception of a couple schools. But even your larger schools, you look at your Salems, your Boardmans, what we consider Division 1, Division 2 around here. I mean, majority of those girls are still multi-sport athletes. It's very, which I love to see, that you're starting to see a transition of, it's not just a sport specific athlete anymore. I look at Cami Rome, and about fell over the one day we leave from Roses, and I see pictures of her playing soccer. So before it was cross country, now she's like, hey, I got to give soccer one more go around. And I went and checked out their alumni game this past weekend, which I always enjoy, try to do that just because you can just see some of your older players and support them in a different sport. But I was like, man, Salem breeds everyone like 5'5" and below. It must be in the water. And then you have 6 foot Cami Rome, running like a deer down the field. And I was like, man, she's freaking good. And I was like, she covers up a lot of ground.
And you said it, you get to support your players in other sports, and I think that's one of the things that makes coaches like you and Quinn, just because I know them specifically, but I know other coaches fall into this realm. A lot of coaches can say they support their players outside of their sport, but like you guys really get it. I see you at games, you're at volleyball games, you're at soccer games, you're at other teams' basketball games when you have a break. What what does it mean to you when you back up supporting your athletes and you show up, and how much has you seen that build relationships with your players and build trust in the players that you do coach?
I mean, it's not about me or the coach. It's about them. Look, they get 4 short years to, go out and be great and have fun and do all kinds of different things. And just I really think something as subtle or easy as just showing up for an hour or two, you know, it means the world to them because it's kind of like a, hey, look, I don't have to be here, but I have your back, and I want to come watch you. I want you to excel in other things. And when I say that I want you to be a multi-sport athlete, I want you to be a multi-sport athlete. Like I want to watch you go do well in volleyball and softball or baseball or track or whatever it is. Now, sometimes it's not even it's not always feasible. Like track season kind of competes with my season when we get into the AAU things, but it's fun. Like it's fun because you get to see them. What they might be to you on the basketball court or on the softball field or whatnot. Their role might change completely, and on the soccer field, or whatever sport it is. So it's kind of fun to see that. And then I always like to look at it as, maybe if there's ever a discussion like, hey, I was watching you on a soccer field one time, and this didn't go your way, but I loved how you reacted to this. Everything is pretty relative when you start to compare sports and just a mental mindset, to where sometimes you just got to look at putting it in a different message that they need to see. But getting out to support them, it doesn't take a lot to go out and just show them that you're there. And it's not always like, I get it, soccer matches can be 2-3 hours, but even if you show up for from halftime to the end of the game, or whatever, it's just giving them that support. I think it shows a lot of what they mean to you, not just in your sport specific or whatever you coach.
What is your favorite sport to watch your players play outside of basketball?
I mean, I've taken a liking to watching some of these soccer matches, but that's because like 90% of our team plays soccer. Um, uh, Outside of that, like probably the most fun, and DJ kind of got me onto this, and watching volleyball. Just how quick volleyball is, and the one thing that I love about volleyball, and actually Hamilton always said this, she goes, the energy in volleyball is just like such high octane, that I love that energy. People are excited all the time. The big, if you could take, for me personally, like the energy that volleyball teams, and translate it, all the time into basketball, I think it's just one of those things that it's contagious constantly. I mean, watching a couple of volleyball matches, last year, whether it was, Salem or on YSN, or just various other players that I coach in AAU, like it's just, volleyball is super exciting because, one, it's fast paced, there's always movement, but then like the energy out of it is just, it's second to none.
One of the things I love about volleyball is you can never have one player take over a game, because no matter how good of a hitter you are, if you have a setter that can't get the ball to you, or if you have a defense that can't pass the ball to your setter, doesn't matter. Like,
Right.
cannot do it.
And you're like trapped in a box. Like you're trapped in a box. You have to jump and hit something over net. Like the most amazing part to volleyball players is their body control. From my standpoint, in like high school, I was like, oh, I could jump high. I have a good vertical. Whatever, my 24-inch vertical back in high school. So, uh, but then like you go to try and hit a ball over a net, like from a dude standpoint, you jump out. They jump up. And watching some of these girls jump, I swear to God, it's like they float. It's almost like if you watch old videos of Michael Jordan jumping, and it's like he's just floating through the air. That's sort of like what some of these girls are like, where they just like jump, and it's almost like you take a still shot and time freezes, and then it's like, bam, they just smack the hell out of the ball. And I'm like, dude, you're like all of like 102 pounds, and you just hit like a 95-mile-an-hour fastball with your right hand, and there's a little 5'2" girl over there who just like takes it and acts like it's nothing. I'm like, you guys are, this is, volleyball is absolutely wild to me, but it's so fun to watch just because of the energy, how quick it is, and like you said, that it really defines a team sport.
We have a girls soccer coach coming on a little bit later in the show. 12:30, we'll talk to the new head soccer coach over at Waterloo, Bill Jackson. We definitely have to ask him about Kara English and what she's been doing over there in their soccer program. 93 goals in her first 2 seasons, just going into her junior season. 7 goals away from 100 in her career. It's amazing what she's been able to do. EB, I'm sure you've seen her on the basketball court at some point in time, or heard of her, or seen someone that has seen her. I mean, one of those people that is just an athlete no matter what sport they're stepping on.
That's, it's 93 goals in 2 years. That's so she's averaging almost like what? That's 47 a year, almost 50. Like, so she's on pace probably for 200. I don't know what the school record is, but I'm gonna assume she's probably gonna get it. Like, that's ridiculous. And when you just take an athlete like that, that's people that you're kind of jealous of, because you just throw them in you throw them in a situation, and you could go play badminton, and they're probably going to be the best person out there, or it's probably like the people playing pickleball over in Columbiana Park right now. You just take an athlete and naturally, like the hand-eye coordination, or whether it's on a soccer field, I guess it'd be like hand-foot coordination, and just what they do naturally is just they're the people that drive you nuts, but you learn to appreciate when you have them, because they, as a coach, they tend to make your life a little bit easier, and I don't want to say they're tough to coach, because sometimes they just do things in a natural way that you can't coach it. So you kind of just got to let them go.
Her coaches have said that she has like a split personality from when she steps on the court or on the field, where she's so like reserved and timid when she's not playing, but then she has this flip that gets switch that gets flipped when she starts playing a sport. Have you coached anybody like that, where it's like you would never expect them to be an aggressive player, but then when they stand on the court, it's like they're going for everything and they're going all out, and they have this killer mindset that they don't have off the court?
I think that's a lot of good athletes or great athletes, and I think even the ones who you can see the potential there, like as a coach, you're trying to get them to flip that switch. It's like that Kobe Bryant switch, to where they just flip it on, and it's like, I don't want to speak out of context, but they just want to kill everything. Like if you're in their way, you're in their way. But I mean, I think of people like Tori Long, Abby Davidson, Danny Vuletic, Molly Howard. I can probably, there's a laundry list of people, if you talk to them off the court, you'd be like, all right, well, this person is the nicest person in the world. But then, you get them on the court, the field, out on a diamond, whatever, like they just get a look in their eye, and they don't care who you are. You're just in their way.
In your experience, can you coach that attitude, or is that something that a kid either has or doesn't?
I think you can pull it out of people, but some people just have it naturally. Sometimes I don't want to say you can coach it, but I think you can maybe draw it out of people once in a while. Once you can get people out of their own way, I'm not going to say they're going to have that killer instinct, but I think you can get them kind of to go to a different level. And then once they see that and they kind of get that taste of it, they're always fighting to get back to it. And it kind of is a step process, to where, right now I'm working with Danny Vuletic, and we're working on some different moves. And I told her the other day, I was like, we're not going to reinvent your game. We're just going to, and I'm not going to try to make you good at a plethora of things. I just want to make you really good at 2 or 3. And she's starting to see it, and like she's seeing the results from it. So it's just like stepping up. So now that she has that taste of it, like she pushes herself even harder, just because she's like, oh, okay, I got this, but I screwed up here. But when I screwed up here, I did this, and it was okay. And I think a lot of times those athletes, like they're such perfectionists, that you need to let them know that in sport, there's a huge gray area, and you're allowed to make mistakes, because a lot of times those mistakes are still probably something really good, or you're such a good athlete, you just made it look better than the rest of us.
I kind of want to update on Danny, since you're working with her, and I haven't seen her since she left Western Reserve. You watched her a lot in high school. How much did being on a college roster kind of make her grow as a player 1 year into Robert Morris?
I think it's very eye-opening, because, and her and I talked about this. I go, when you were at Western Reserve, you were kind of put in a box, because you were always the tallest person, or one of the tallest people. So it was like, hey, you're going to play inside the key, and now we're kind of opening it up a little bit. So I think it made her grow in an aspect that, there's a lot more to this game than just what she's known, and that she's very well and very capable of, playing outside those limits. So with her, and I told her this, it's kind of getting her out of her own way. And she's a very black and white person. And I told her this, and she agreed. I was like, you're probably one of those people who are really good at math, because there's either a wrong answer or a right answer. Now we need to show you more to this world that you can you need to become a writer, and you can live in the gray area and kind of write your own story a little bit. And most impressive part that she shocked me by is she's actually a phenomenal shooter, like gorgeous form.
I've seen it.
And right now we're working on her. We're not changing her form or anything. It's just getting a quicker release, and we started working on that yesterday. And it was funny, like the first 2 minutes, I'm like, as soon as the ball hits your hands, like I want it up. And like she started flicking it. She's like, well, this is weird. I was like, well, we just need to get your muscle memory, those twitches quicker. And then after about 5 shots, it was I told her, I was like, dude, it's almost like watching Klay Thompson shoot. Like you're catching nice, you're pinpointing it high, and it's just right into it and smooth. And then we started, I think she's really going to grow and do well because she's learning how to score off the move, to where she's always been a very stationary person, because it hasn't been her fault. She's always did what she's had to for her team to make her successful. But now, her position coach at Robert Morris said, I want you to become a little more agile. And I was like, Danny, I hate to break it to you, you ain't putting on 75 pounds and bulking up like crazy. You're not going to become a left tackle. So let's kind of use what you have, which is you have good athleticism, good length, and let's transition you into being a little more agile. So I think she has a good potential to have a really good year. I'm not going to say she's going to go be All-American. I don't know what her story is or what it'll be, but I think she is going to go in and have a really good opportunity to produce and help that team out. And where she was at her freshman year to where she's going to go in as her sophomore year is definitely going to be a lot different.
I like what you said about her high school game. She was kind of put into a box, but it's not nothing bad on Western Reserve's coaching staff, because it's got to be really hard to coach a kid like that, because part of you wants to put her in positions that are going to help her at the next level. But then when it's that dominant of a position, like every day she's the tallest person in the court, you have to take advantage of that. It's it's a catch-22. You have to kind of play her where she's going to be played, and you can't really venture away from that. It's got to be a hard situation to find yourself in.
And that's what I told her. I go, it's what you did in high school is not wrong. Like, it won you 90% of your games. So it did very good things, and it got you in this position where you're at to be playing at a Division I level. But now you're at that Division I level. You can't be stuck in your old ways, and it's not like we got to reinvent what we just need to expand on it. So, and I talked to her last night. We were texting. I was like, anything that we worked on, it's not like we've thrown 10 different things and we're trying to turn you into a point guard. We're just taking what and really maximizing it in a 23-foot range. I don't think too many people would believe me, but we were doing, it's called a range test, and we were starting working on some range. Like, this girl hit 8 of 12 from 26 feet, but like it was nothing. And that was just once she learned her base was her biggest thing, and just she needs to learn how to play low, because she's always been so used to being able to be so tall. And now once she figures out those different levels, it's really going to open things up for her.
Yeah, and we can't wait to see what she's able to do at Robert Morris the next couple of years. And we've talked about it before. I know DJ and Quinn talked about it, like D1 athletes that come out of YSN, not too many of them. So we definitely respect the talent, and we can't wait to see her journey as she goes through Robert Morris. We were trying to think, is like for basketball, I 4. I came up with 4 since YSN came about.
Division I athletes, or
yeah, like Daisnet Harris, Danny.
You had Kristen Bell. She she walked on at Kentucky. I'm not sure if she's still there.
And then Jackie Grisdale at Quinnipiac, but walk on, but still Division I athlete that earned herself a scholarship after her first year.
Yeah, which I mean, people don't realize that is tough. one to walk on, because now you're behind the 8 ball and you're proving yourself. That's the ultimate. I'm betting on myself the whole way through.
And people hear Quinnipiac, they might have never heard of them, but in the girls' sports range, in the women's basketball realm, they're a pretty good program. They've been to a lot of tournaments. They've made a couple of big tournament runs as under those lower seeds. So, not a program to turn your nose up at either.
Well, no. Well, first of all, any D1 program,
Right.
D1 is D1. Now, granted, I get it. There's some not very successful D1 programs, and maybe you'd be better off going to some of those D2 programs or whatnot, or there's some D2 programs who are better than some D1 programs. But at that level, a college athlete is a college athlete. I don't care if you're D1, D2, D3, and I think you're starting to see that on all different levels, NFL, NBA, MLB, softball, volleyball. There's D3 people who are out there, making a name for themselves. And that's just, sometimes it's about finding the right fit and where they are at personally than it is, just chasing the name or the attribute of saying I went D1.
This is how I always put it when you're talking about people that are going into college. Someone whose job is strictly based on whether or not they win or lose has picked you to be on their team. And that no matter what level it is, that means they're in some realm, shape, or form, they're staking a part of their job on bringing you onto the team.
Right.
And that should make yourself feel just incredible.
And these coaches, and pardon the language, they chase your ass all over the country. So if they're chasing you, you're driving miles to go put yourself in these situations, whether you're softball playing in Colorado, Columbus, Michigan, Indiana, PA, or basketball, Kentucky, Florida, wherever, these coaches are coming and they're traveling just as many miles, if not further, because they're looking at you against different competitions. So when you get there, they're not exactly going to coddle you. And they coddled you because they chased you everywhere. Now that you're there, like you said, they picked you to be there. But what you do with it when you get there is kind of on you, because it's not the here, I'm gonna hold your hand, make sure you eat 3 square meals, go to bed at this. It's sort of like what it is in high school, to where you tailor towards your stars, and then NBA you kind of tailor towards your stars, or society tailors towards the stars, whichever. But when you get to college, you really start to see, how much accountability are you putting on yourself, because you got to do a lot of those things in those unseen hours.
All right, we're going to talk to a soccer coach that is taking his first year at the helm at Waterloo. It is Bill Jackson, the head girls soccer coach for the Vikings. Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Thanks for having me.
Coach, like I said, this is kind of you're stepping into a program that had a great year last year inside this MVAC. You got a lot of returning stars. I want you to take a chance to go over your roster, some of the big names that Waterloo fans should look forward to seeing on soccer pitch this year, and who are going to be some of your key contributors to this season.
Of course. I guess we'll start with Kara, right? Kara English, returning striker. I think she had school record 54 goals last year. A phenomenal playmaker, sets her teammates up, a great leader. We also bring back a senior Rose Couts on the outside, joined by junior Olivia Boyle. They are a pretty nice front three, bring a lot of speed, work very well together. In the midfield, we've got Sydney Jackson, who had a school record last year with 18 assists. She'll run up through the center of the field there, played center mid with Maya Bennett. And then we have Carletta, 2 sophomores who were phenomenal last year. I think are going to be really good this year, step in and play some big roles. I also have Courtney Eisenbaum and Sophia Wood also playing in midfield. We have exciting freshman, Kara's little sister Bailey, who is going to be joining us playing in the midfield as well. Defensively, I'm really excited because we got Lily Foster back, who leads the defensive line, and Kayla Tursak's back this year. She'll be playing back there as well. Another newcomer is Lily Snyder. She's a senior. First, she hasn't been out, so this will be her first season, but she's an exciting player to watch as well. And then we got our goalkeeper back, Grace Arian, who set the school record last year. Let me see here. I think it was 170 saves. So that's going to be huge. So on the back end, we got experience everywhere. We got some newcomers coming in. Another defender, we got Gabby Gonzalez, who's done a great job for us too. So we have, like I said, I've got 12 lettermen coming back. Pretty exciting.
You're 2 days away from your first scrimmage. It'll be at Perry. When you're talking about these scrimmages that you have before the regular season starts, what are some of your goals and things that you want to see out of your team? You have 3 scrimmages before the season starts to kind of gauge where you're at. What do you want to see from your team, and what are some of your goals into these scrimmages that you have?
The biggest thing I want to see is how we grow and improve all 3 steps. The scrimmage schedule is pretty strong. I was excited about that. I wanted to go out. We wanted to get the girls challenged before we head into league play. But really what we want to see is just the growth from game 1 to game 3 and see if we can progress with the different styles we're looking to play this year.
All right, and then you open the season at Newton Falls on the 22nd, and this is an MVAC that fans of other sports would be interested to know that it's this one MVAC. There are no tiers in girls soccer. You got a couple from the scarlet tier for other sports, and then the gray tier as well. When you look at this league, I mean, this conference has been obviously controlled by Springfield for the last couple of years. What do you see out of this conference? How much do you like playing in it, and what do you expect from it this year?
I think it's going to be exciting. It's a great style. I think everybody plays a little more open, so there's a lot more scoring. And like you said, it's run through Springfield, and it's Springfield's conference. So we're out there. We're going to try to make a run, see what we can do. I think it's going to be highly competitive at the top end. I think there's some really good teams out there. I think Garfield, I think Crestview, there's several teams that can compete with Springfield. So it should be highly competitive and fun and exciting to watch.
You got a couple of non-conference games as well. You got Columbiana, you got United. What are you looking forward to as far as your schedule goes outside of the conference and things that you can do in games that don't mean anything to your conference standings, but still bolster your preparation for the tournament?
Exactly. Playing for seed. Definitely. It's going to be fun to play outside the conference, see some different styles. And do some more squad rotation and maybe try a couple new wrinkles outside of the league, but definitely playing for seed.
Like we said at the top, it's your first year as the head coach in this program. When this job opened up and you got the opportunity to, put your name into the hat, what were some of the things that drew you to this program, and what made you want to take this opportunity and grab it?
I coached several of the girls in club. So of course that was one of the first things. But to tell a story back when, it had been a couple years ago when Kara English and that group was in 8th grade, we went to, me and my daughter went to a basketball game, the 8th grade championship game. And when I walked in the gym for an 8th grade game and saw the Waterloo side filled with fans, I was like, wow, now this is a community.
When you look at the community, like you said, and the support, I'm sure you've already felt, and you've already kind of gotten a great grip of how much they support this girls soccer program and every athletics program. From your perspective, what do you think makes Waterloo a unique community to play in?
It's just so close knit and it's special. It's not being from there, but walking in the door, everybody says hi. Everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants to support you. They all show you love. It's just a nice, small community. It just supports one another.
Let's let the community get to know you a little bit. How did you get into the sport of soccer and coaching it, and what kind of drew you to love this sport?
I originally was a baseball guy for a long time. And then my oldest daughter decided to play soccer, and we joined a soccer club that didn't have any coaches. So I jumped in, and I ran into a coach named Mike from England. Long story short, ended up coaching with him for a while, and he really turned me on to the game and developed that love there, and then just kind of grew and started coaching club, and just it's the perfect sport because it's like chess, baseball, like basketball, all kind of combined.
What I love about soccer coaches is you don't get a timeout to bring your team over and talk about what's going on. It's like you let them go, you have halftime maybe to make a few adjustments, and then it's just like you have to trust the players for the whole whole time frame. We've asked a lot of coaches this. What's your philosophy on that? How do you handle a match, and how do you kind of work through the ins and outs of that experience, not being able to really bring your team aside and make adjustments like other sports can?
We try to prepare the girls to be able to handle any situation on their own. I tell them, my job is to practice. We coach up until game day. On game day, we can't. It's on you now. So we try to give them all the tools and everything they need to be prepared for any type of situation they may run into. I said in a perfect world, we'd be in a position where I could sit down on a lawn chair and just let you roll and not have to do anything. But it's fun to watch them correct their own mistakes and learn as they play. I think that's one of the most fun things about soccer as well, is you literally watch their growth as the game develops in 45 minutes per half. So that's kind of cool.
I know every sport practices are important, but I imagine that makes practices for soccer, when you're able to get into practice, even more important, because that's when you really do get to make those adjustments that you see in a match.
Coach,
Very important.
We have a question from Chris Sigler on the line. He goes, what is the biggest challenge when taking over a program and getting today's student athletes to buy into your philosophy?
Biggest challenge? That's a good question. I think the biggest challenge for me originally was trying to get my numbers. But we actually have really good numbers now. The last couple of weeks, we've added a couple more players. So there's some excitement there. The buying in part, I think, wasn't terribly hard because I like to play fast, and I think the girls like that. And I think once they saw the freedom that they have on the field, it really got them going. So I guess the hardest part would be just getting my message to them at the beginning, getting them to trust me and to see that, hey, you're going to have a blank canvas here to go create.
Did it help your experience, particularly that you got the chance to coach some of these girls in club and they already knew what you were about and what you stood for?
Yeah, when you have your core 6 girls that played for you for a couple of years, like all through the winter and the spring, it makes it a lot easier because, those are your, more experienced players that already know. So it gives you more time to bring up the players that don't really know the system as well. And now I have 6 other teachers. So we're all teaching together and learning together.
So I guess with that, so my big question, and I'm no soccer expert by any means, but as from a coaching standpoint, what do you, as you just said all that, as you're coming into this year, what do you feel is the next step or that you need to do that gets you over the hump or to the next level to take this program where you want it to be?
The first challenge was to get the numbers, and we did that. We're still growing. But as far as field play goes, I think the biggest thing for us to get to the next level is we have to be able to adjust and adapt to different situations and different styles of play. Let's be honest, every team we're going to see is going to try to take away number 7. That's the goal. Nobody wants 7 to go out there and put 5 goals on them. So we've got to develop other ways, avenues of scoring and other ways to attack and still keep her active and get her the ball and get her opportunities as well. But if we could put everything together, I think we've got a really good shot.
What are some major differences in coaching club soccer compared to the high school realm?
The biggest difference is you don't pick your players, to be honest. On the club team, you handpick who you want. You need a goalie, you just go out and shop for a goalie. Well, I need a goalie now. I got to go through the hallway and try to find one in chemistry or geometry. Who can play goalie, right? But we did get lucky with that. We did get a backup goalie off the basketball team. So shout out to Coach L for helping me out with that. But I guess the style of play is a little bit different too. club is more defensive, I would say at times, where I think high school soccer is a little more offensive.
You put a lot of time into this sport. You put a lot of sacrifice into coaching these girls. I want to give you the chance to talk about your family and the sacrifices they make, and them allowing you to take the time that you take to coach this sport, and how much you appreciate that.
Oh, I do. I appreciate it a lot. Thank you to Heather, my wife, and Haley, my older daughter, who get a lot of stuff done around the house that I can't do right now. It does take some time, and I want to shout out real quick Coach Moore and Coach Mackenzie Webb, Coach Sheena Moore and Mackenzie Webb, who are helping me and their families, and the time that I'm taking away from them with this project. But yeah, I do appreciate everything, especially the patience that everybody shows.
The other thing that we've talked about other soccer coaches about in the past, and I want to get your thoughts on real quick before we let you go, developing a youth programs and developing the youth in a program. A lot of soccer teams don't have a middle school soccer team affiliated with the school. Right. It's not there yet. So what kind of things do you want to see Waterloo do, and you want to see the community do to still get the youth of the community invested in the sport, so you can have them a little bit prepared when they get to you as a freshman?
Yeah, that's a difficult thing. Soccer at the youth level is just shifting so much to a travel model. And a lot of teams don't have numbers. One thing in the club I was at before, big thing I see a lot of is blending, communities blending players together to form teams. It's a lot less rec and a lot more travel now, which has changed the game a little bit. But yeah, youth's very important. We need to get the girls out. I think creating some excitement and buzz at the high school level, if we can have a great season, it could generate some more buzz and we can get more kids out. That's the big thing. And then help them develop a year-round program where girls can also dabble with soccer during the off seasons as well.
Coach, you're giving a shout out to your assistants. Are there any other names in this program that you think deserve a shout out to the help they put in this program and what they are doing to making this program a success?
I really want to thank Coach DeVise and Coach L for all the help with the athletic department. They've been great helping me navigate the things I was learning as far as the OHSAA rules and all the paperwork. But no, we have a great solid group of kids coming back. I'm excited. Just want to shout out the community and everybody's been so welcoming, and really just excited to get going.
Coach, we're excited to continue our coverage of you. We wish you the best of luck this season, and we know that we'll talk to you again real soon. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, guys.
Good luck, Coach.
That was Bill Jackson, the head coach of the Waterloo Vikings girls soccer team that is returning a lot of players, a lot of athletes, and they should be fun to watch this season as they try to, contest for a league championship that has been controlled by one team as of late.
He kind of hit the nail on the head though too. Like, you have a very top heavy league, obviously Springfield being the top team, but then Crestview's team finished very strong last year. Champions in there too. I think Champions generally, they're competing with that now. You throw in Waterloo, you return 12 letter winners and arguably probably one of the best scorers or I guess in soccer stands strikers in the league. 93 goals in 2 years is nothing to shake a stick at. That there's going to be, I'm interested to see, from her standpoint, a lot of teams are going to shift it and really try to limit her, but how she adjusts to that, because even if she's not scoring, how she's going to help open up other players is going to be pivotal. And it sounds like they are full steam ahead, and got to be exciting for a first year coach to come in and you're not really building from the ground up. You're kind of just reloading, and he gets to come in and implement some of his style and what he wants to do. Should be fun in not only that league but this area for girls soccer.
It's also going to be fun to watch the coaching staff come up with creative ways to still get Kara English involved in the offense, like still get her open, still try to find creative ways to get her the ball in space, even with these teams circling her on the scouting report and saying, like, we cannot let her beat us. Still going to come up with creative ways to get her the ball, because at the end of the day, you got to try to get her to score because she's your best scorer. So it's going to be fun to watch the creative ways that they try to get her open and get her into open space.
Yeah, for sure. And this area has. I like seeing how soccer's starting to grow. On the boys and girls side. Talking to, I was talking to, this was a couple months ago, but Barry Kimple, who's coach over at Crestview, and we were talking merely 20 years ago when him and I were in school. Soccer was a very club-based thing. Still, you had very few schools that had school teams, and now it seems like every which way you turn, schools are either starting their own program or they're in the infancy and they're starting a school club program and trying to grow it from there. And in the United States, soccer is still very, I guess, green or young compared to the rest of the world. So as this takes off, you see a lot of talent, especially boys and girls side. Look at this area. We've the Howlands, the South Ranges, the Crestviews, and that's on the boys side. Now girls side, you've had the West Branches. You've had Salem's been pretty dominant the past couple of years. Crestview's been up there. Waterloo, Springfield, United Girls. South Range Girls. It's just the athletes that you see on the soccer field are the ones that you're seeing in the winter and the spring as well. It's good to see it's all coming full circle.
Yeah, and there's some really dominant programs. I mean, Canfield Girls Soccer is going for their 10th consecutive AAC championship, and West Branch is going for their 9th consecutive EBC championship. So those are two just dynasties that you have in the sport.
Yeah, it's and I know West Branch. I feel like they reload. Same with Canfield. You don't know who's who coming in a year, but you just know what the product is.
And I don't think it's any coincidence that both Coach Fico and Coach Simone from both those schools have been there for a while. So they kind of, you can't establish a great program unless you're actually in it and you're consistent with it. So no coincidence that both those programs have coaches that have been there for a while.
Oh, yeah. And that's, that's the first part to anything, establishing, program, continue to build. And now you have, it's just the younger programs or the players coming up, they buy into it. And it's not a, like I said, it's a reload. They're not looking to rebuild. It's just, okay, we've graduated so-and-so, here's our next plug. And, those are two programs that are, religiously in the soccer pool or, top 10, 15 in the state. And, they're generally the 1 or 2 seeds and, making deep tournament runs.
I think it's been 5 straight seasons that the area has had somebody in the state championship representing soccer. And the area will try to make it that again. As last year it was Crestview that got there. Who's going to be there this year? That's the big question. And we can't wait to see what the answer is. We're going to take a quick break on Running Point. When we come back, we'll have more great conversations with me and Eric, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Why choose local? Because you live here, work here, learn here, relax here, and celebrate here. 21 WFMJ is our family's only locally owned TV station, and our focus is local. Other TV stations don't have that same focus, as their owners are somewhere else. But 21 WFMJ is rooted in the Valley. Local people making decisions that affect your life, right here where you live.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Change. This one word can make you break out in a cold sweat. But with change comes wisdom, experience, and understanding. At Myers Family Insurance, we can help make changes in Medicare, insurance, and retirement a positive experience for you and your family. We've gone through changes, like our new office and new faces to help our family of clients too.
For all your Medicare needs, call Myers Family Insurance. Check us out online at myersfamilyins.com or find us on Facebook.
Jimmy Sudman here, Director of Isle, Purple Cat, and Golden String. We are happy to support YSN and two of my favorite people, Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. We are an agency that provides services for adults with disabilities. We infuse humor, passion, and joy into their lives. If you know of any folks with disabilities that need our assistance, please contact us.
How lucky are we to have not one, but two 18-hole Donald Ross Championship golf courses right here in our backyards. Mill Creek Golf Course was selected by Golf Week as one of America's 30 best municipal courses, continuing to challenge golfers of all levels and featuring PGA professionals, golf instruction, a players' rewards club, kids programs, and a pro shop and grill room for a memorable golf experience. Call or click to schedule your tee time at Mill Creek Golf Course.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, we offer a worry-free experience for all our customers. From sales to financing and even service, we'll help build your perfect vehicle
and lock in your trade value
while your vehicle is being built.
No worries.
We guarantee financing,
regardless of your situation or credit history.
No worries. And when your vehicle needs service,
our award-winning team will get you back on the road.
No worries.
That's what going the extra mile means. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Now is the time to think about your future, where you want to go, what you want to be. Your future can start now at Kent State Salem or Kent State East Liverpool. We have programs that will open doors and provide opportunities for you to pursue your passion. We are affordable, we are close. You call it hometown, we call it Kent State University. Learn more at www.kent.edu/Columbiana. You belong here.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Just the second show of the month of August as we venture towards the fall sports season. Summer sports has slowed way down, and we have just a couple of weeks until the fall sports kick back up. Anthony Hartwig alongside Eric Bailey today as Ty Bartell is on his way back home from Nashville, Tennessee. Enjoyed a little bit of a R&R vacation with his wife, a little bit of a second honeymoon, if you will, after their 1 year anniversary.
Man, he made out on that. He went to SummerSlam.
I know that's one heck of a way to spend it.
Talk about a wife that really loves you. Well, yeah, honey, we're going on a honeymoon. We're going to go watch a bunch of grown men.
A bunch of grown men and women just beat up on each other. Or I should say, pretend to beat up on each other.
I hope he took her out to a nice dinner in Nashville, or they got to go do something other than watch professional wrestling. I mean, who knows? She could be a big like Ronda Rousey fan. I don't know. But
I think the rest of the weekend was spent with like nature walks and nice hikes throughout the Tennessee mountains, which, hey, I don't think there are too many mountain ranges that are better.
No, he look, if you get to go to SummerSlam, you better be doing some nature walks and sightseeing down there. I mean, I don't think you could be bored in a place like Nashville. I mean, there's just so many different things to do, outside of, being downtown or going to an event like SummerSlam. But like you said, what you have within an hour surrounding, there's so many things that you can jump into.
Tennessee has Nashville, and then if you travel about 3 hours east, you got the wacky tourist traps in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg that are just off the wall. The buildings are over the top built, and I don't know if you've ever been to Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, but it's one of those places that you walk around and it's completely built for tourism. and that's the only
No,
purpose it serves.
I've never been there, but my my sister and nieces were there this year because Columbiana softball went down, and my sister said she loved it because there's a lot of things to do, but like you said, it's definitely tailored towards tourism. I mean, I do not think of Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, Tennessee, as like being the official museum of the Titanic.
Yep.
First, I'm pretty sure the Titanic came from Europe. But now, where are we going to put this museum? We'll pick Tennessee. Looks like a fun spot. Yeah. But
there's two Titanic museums. There's one in, I think it's in Missouri, and there's one in Tennessee. But neither one of them really make much sense. The only difference is one has stuff that was actually recovered from underwater, and the other stuff has stuff that was recovered floating after the shipwreck. That's literally like the only difference between the museums.
Nonetheless, I mean, I'd probably love it because I'm a history dude, but like it doesn't make sense to me. Like if it was in New York or somewhere near a port, perfect sense. But when you tell me it's in Tennessee and Missouri, not exactly sure. Like were they just running out of places to put like museums? Like look, we got DC's got a lot, New York's got a lot. We need to give some love to Missouri and Tennessee.
They had this big pool that you could put your hand in that had water that was set to like 28 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like the freezing temperature of salt water. Oh, it's that kind of cold that just hurts that you don't want to. So just imagine being submerged in that, and it's brutal.
Yeah, and you're telling me there wasn't room on that door for Jack? Oh, come on, man.
There
was enough
science
room.
will tell you that it wasn't the room, it was the buoyancy. And if he tried to get on, I think it actually showed it. If he tried to get on, it would have tipped over and sunk.
Look, it would have been worth a shot.
I think didn't they try it in the movie? Didn't he try to get up and it kind of started to tip over?
It's been such a long time since I've seen that movie. But fascinating to me how they made it. Like the water going through the hallways was actually done in like a model ship, and they had to like flip the camera upside down. Movie magic's kind of wild. But I was sitting here during break thinking not about the Titanic, but I was wondering, you're like the volleyball guru, so I don't know if you've touched too much on volleyball, but I guess this year, someone not named Jocelyn Jordan in Austintown, who are some players and teams to look out for?
Definitely Gerard. They have, Brie Littell and Lauren Plone coming back. And they're one of the best volleyball teams in the area. I'm interested to see what Canfield does now that they don't have Abby Householder anymore. A lot of their offense ran through her last year, and they're going to have to find someone else to kind of step up and be their offense. And I think it'll be Abby McElroy. I mean, you've seen her plenty of times in basketball. She's a great athlete, but she's a really good middle blocker. I think they're going to try to set her a little bit more, get her a little bit more active in the middle. When you look at Lakeview is always good. I know there's going to be a heck of a battle in the NE8 between Lakeview and Girard. They have Tara Lytle, who is just setting the world on fire stat wise. And then, you said Jocelyn Jordan, she's going to play in Division I. She could be a Power 5 player. She's been to plenty of Power 5 camps. I think she did a camp in Nebraska. This summer she did a camp in Tennessee, University of Tennessee in Knoxville. So, she could very well be a Power 5 volleyball player out of our area, which is something that we haven't seen in a long time for volleyball. Crestview, of course, is the hallmark of the lower division schools. So close last year to beating the 3-time runner-up state champions. They had them down 13-9 in set 5 and just couldn't quite finish that last set. But if they would have won that game, it would have been one of the biggest upsets that we've ever seen in sports, I think, because everyone kind of just expected Independence to go right back to a state, and to have them be beat in the regional semifinals by a team that had never been to the regional finals before, that would have been something else to watch.
One team you didn't mention, but they're kind of, in Columbiana County, you have Crestview, and it seems like a lot of people forget about this team, but Wellsville, Wellsville's been kind of, you don't really hear much about them, but they lost a league game in,
it's been a long time,
3 or 4 years. I don't even think it's been close.
They got to the regional finals last year in Strongsville, and I think if Emily McNichol didn't get hurt in that game and have to kind of be, taken off for a set and then come back in the next set and not be exactly 100%, they would have had a pretty good chance to win that game. But they do lose some pieces, but they bring back Presley Stokes, who is going to be one of the big names to watch in volleyball.
She's only a sophomore, right?
Yeah,
sophomore. Like she just came out as her freshman year and said, here guys, I got this. Here I am for the next 4 years. Have fun trying to beat me. It's crazy to me. We talked about the talent on the soccer field. You have equivalent talent on the volleyball court, and we didn't even dive into, or you didn't even speak about some of these teams that the South Ranges, the West Branches. I'm pretty sure West Branch comes in. They get a new coach, but they've pretty much been right in the thick of everything in that league.
And I think they kind of expected to have a new coach. It wasn't a surprise. I think Penny DeShields took over that as a kind of a linchpin because they needed someone to come in a pinch. But I think having her be a principal, I knew that wasn't going to last too long. You can only spread yourself so far. And she does so much for that school already.
And exciting to me too is partnering up with 440 and Goal. Now we get to see some different different athletes a little bit further north, which I've been fortunate enough that I've gotten to see some of the games up that way just from having players up that way. But you get some really talented teams up there. Not only in volleyball but football, basketball, across all the sports, which I think that'll be exciting to see for people in our area to get to see, branching out and getting to see a little bit different style of play too.
And then when you look at Crestview, and everyone's going to be talking about Crestview, but they have a monster in their league that they're going to have to deal with, which is Garfield, who the only 2 losses in the conference they had last year were to Crestview. So they're going to be right there fighting tooth and neck with Crestview all season. They have Montana McGranahan, who's a great outside hitter, coming back for her junior season. They have one of the best setters they've ever had in their program coming back. So they have a really good program that is going to be, fighting with Crestview all season.
Yeah, it's it always blows my mind. We sit here, we talk about like past athletes, people who graduated and where you're going to replace it. And I was just thinking of, what kind of sparked it was we were talking about Danny, earlier in the show. And I was like, man, Danny actually might have been a better volleyball player than she was a basketball player. But it's close.
She started her career at South Range. I remember that was before YSN was a thing. So I was just watching volleyball as a South Range fan. And before I saw her play basketball, I saw her play volleyball. Didn't even know she was a basketball player because she's a freshman. And I was like, she's going to be a huge college volleyball player. And then I saw what she could do on the basketball court, and it was like, and she played softball that year too. It was like, geez.
Yeah. Well, heck, I think Walt Long always used to tell me like, yeah, think of this softball team, and it was like Danny, Tori Long, and he just started rambling off all these names, and I was like, all right, so you pretty much built a juggernaut. And he's like, yeah, then you grow up and people find their niches and go their other ways. But we spoke about Joe, what she's doing on a volleyball side. I thought it was great to see her back on the basketball court this summer, and she, for how good she is on the volleyball court, she is very, very good on the basketball court. But what I love about her is her personality, and she's like a big chemistry person. Like she's always keeping people, engaged, but in a fun loving way. Like it's not, a drill sergeant way, but like she's going to do something goofy to kind of break that tension, but it's going to get, draw the attention back to what you need to get done.
Her personality always reminded me of like Brie Kohler, where it's like she lives in her own little world. It's a bubbly world. You never know what's going to come out. And it's always kind of something goofy that I'm sure some coaches would get frustrated with, but it gets kind of real. It breaks tension. It's a tension breaker. She's a big tension breaker, which you need in volleyball because momentum can turn on you really quick. So Jocelyn is one of those players that can sprout a joke in a bad moment of the game and just kind of relax everybody and make them all loose again. And volleyball, especially that Fitch team, they really rely on how loose they are and how much fun they're having on the court. So she's one of those tension breakers that helps them do that.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting, and I'm excited, for us to where we can one it helps that we can pick up more volleyball games. Probably these huddle cams and stuff like that just allows it to happen. And we've grown year after year doing more volleyball games. I don't know a thing about volleyball. I've called a couple of volleyball games, but it's just they're exciting. I terminology I probably screw up every single time, but it's to start to see that come to fruition to where hopefully I'm hoping maybe this year we can have a Jenna McClish jump on with us and start to call some of these games, because she's one of those people in volleyball, like you said. She'll she's the one you're at a funeral and she's the one to make you smile and forget about that you're at a funeral. She learns how to break that tension, and just her passion that she has for volleyball is 10 feet tall, and she's just one of those people that I would love to hear her on a game, just how she sees it, and even on the basketball side, but hopefully even diving more into soccer. I know we had Nick Baylor do some things last year, and he spoke to me. I think he's excited to jump in and do some more soccer games this year. Just to get those people who have such a passion for these games, it makes it 100 times more exciting, because I did a game with Nick last year, and just hearing him talk and how he sees things, I'm looking at it, and we might as well be trying to learn Mandarin Chinese on the field. Like I don't know what the heck's going on, but he just paints the picture perfectly to where he's really selling you the story. It's great to hear these new faces help not only the YSN brand, but the brand of the sport, which essentially that's why we're here, because we all love sports, and our weaknesses are someone else's strengths, and just having them come in and really help out with that is all in all, it makes it fun, especially if we can continue to do that. And DJ, if there's a will, there's a way. He has a vision. He's probably, we're talking about it now, and he's been thinking about this for the past umpteen years. It's already going down a path to where he has a vision for it. So I think it's going to be, we thought last year was a good fall. I think this year it's going to be even better.
Last year we had close to 100 volleyball games on the network by the end of the fall season. I think the goal for everyone is just to let's double that, right? Let's double that. Let's try to see if we can get to 200, right? Let's see if we can double that. There's plenty of games, because you're playing 3 or 4 games a week. It's a short season. It's over. Last day of the regular season is October 15th. Their district championships are happening the weekend that football ends the regular season. So I mean, they're getting done a lot quicker. So there's a lot of games to be had. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, heck, man, they start officially playing here in almost like 2 weeks.
Right. 20th, the Saturday after football.
So I mean, they hit the ground, and when they start chugging, man, they're not slowing down. And it's crazy to think we're already in August, because I think last time I spoke with a lot of you guys, I was like, man, we're already in January. You guys were prepping for softball and baseball, and here we are, football season all over again.
It goes quick, man. It goes quick. One of the things I kind of want to bring up with you before the show's over, something that is starting to trend in high school sports. We talked before we had Coach Jackson on about how much of an honor it is to just play college sports and be one of the 7% of high school athletes play college at any level, something like that. But then when you start talking about the 1%, the players that are so elite that they're like, you can go anywhere, you're Power 5. You're starting to see more of them. They'll sign by their junior season, and then they will elect to forego their senior season in high school to play elite travel, elite or whatever it may be, to expose themselves to that type of atmosphere that they're going to see at that level of the sport. Do you see that trend going? And what do you think about that? Do you think it's beneficial to expose yourself to more and more of that kind of top competition before you get to that level? Or are you someone that kind of would like them to stick out their high school career, even though it's not, up to par with the competition they're going to see at the next level?
Right. I don't know. I'm indifferent about it. It's if you want to see the trend, it's one of those things. Kind of follow the money,
Mhm.
like because as you know, in club or those sports, you have a little more freedom, and if you disengage from high school, then especially with NILs and everything, you can set yourself up a little bit easier in life. Um, like you said, the competition, if you're at that level of an athlete, like you're going to see the competition probably more on the club side because you're like if basketball, if you're an EYBL team or you're one of those kids playing in an EYBL circuit or a UAA or, uh, the Adidas circuit or whatnot, you're playing against like competition, and that's always gonna, that's good competition is just going to make you better. There's no substitution for being able to compete. Um, why I don't like it is you can't replace the years that you have in high school. I don't care what sport it is. You've grown up in a community. These are your friends. Regret is always going to weigh heavier than anything that looks shiny, down the future in a moment. Like don't throw those moments away because I think a lot of times people regret not being able to get them back, and it's just because you're with your friends, things change so quick after you graduate. You gotta savor and really be present in those moments. And at the end of the day, if you're gonna go play in those elite competitions, is it gonna put you further ahead than where you already were gonna be at? If you're going to college and you're going to Duke or UNC or Kentucky, and you're signed by your junior year, is playing in a circuit, every weekend going to put you further ahead at that said school than if you would have just played for your high school?
Right.
I don't know. Obviously there's a rhyme or reason behind it. I'm kind of indifferent. I can play both sides of it just because I coach both sides of it. But I also think you don't want to throw away what you have in your high school lives or high school years just because those are some of your most carefree years that you have. Because once you graduate high school, don't wish becoming an adult so quick. And when you get into the circuit side of things or those high level, softball, baseball, volleyball, basketball competitions, it's a little bit of a different world, and it's a little more cutthroat and dog eat dog. People really don't care about your feelings, who you are, where you're from, because you are very, very replaceable. Opposed to when you come from a high school, if you're a great athlete, look at how many great athletes we've had around here, and maybe out of Deschanette, who's gone to Power Five, but your community always backs you because your community is proud of who you are because you represent them, they represent you. When you go into I guess those high level competitions, you just represent yourself. So you really don't have any backing. So don't throw away people that have always been in your corner. They're gonna do as much as they can and be just as proud of you. And if it's not going to change what you're going to be doing in college or where you're going to be set up in college, then just sometimes these kids need to just still be kids because that's what they are.
It's got to be hard. I mean, like if you're at that level, like we'll just stay with basketball because you're a basketball coach. If you're a girl and Gina Oriema has your number and like you've signed with UConn and you're obviously your aspirations are playing past college and into a professional kind of thing, it's hard to not get tunnel vision and be like, I have to do everything I can to make that succeed. But then, you never wish this on a kid. But God forbid you get hurt in that circuit before you even step on UConn's floor. You're going to look back and say, man, I wish I would have stayed and been with my friends and the people that I grew up with and kind of lived out that experience that I really can't get back.
Oh yeah. And look, it's when you're in those circuits and, you're that good and you're playing at the FIBA World Championships, and then you turn right around and then you go to this exposure event, then you come home for 2 days and then you got to fly to California. And then, from California, you're in, I don't know, Georgia. And then, sometimes it's not bad to take a step back either. And their work ethic's not going to change, but you know I always like to see kids go play for your school, because your role becomes completely different than who you are on that team. Your role on your high school team is you probably are everything. You're the point guard, you're the post player, you're the scorer, you're the rebounder, you're this and that. So now your role changes a little bit, opposed to if you're on your all-star exposure team. If I was a college coach, I don't want to see that, because your adversities are different. How do you handle adversity when the ball's in your hands, and it has to be in your hands, opposed to you're not having the best game ever, and you can pass it on to blue chip recruit right next to you, and they can take over. Each one has its benefits, but I'd like to see how you handle each different scenario.
Do you think there's a sense of pressure? Like once you sign to a team like that, you sign to a high level Power 5 program, you're signed, but like then you have the pressure of, okay, when I get there, I have to be ready. Like, or my spot's not going to be given, or I'm going to sit the bench, or whatever it may be. Like there's nothing guaranteed for me when I get there. So I have to do everything I can to succeed there, because now once I sign, everyone I know is expecting me to go there and be what I'm supposed to be once you sign to a UConn or a Duke or a Kentucky or whatever it may be. Like that brings expectations. Succeeding like that brings expectations from the people around you. So do you think there's this immense pressure to try to make yourself as good as possible before you even get there?
I think there better be. I mean, you're going in a situation where everyone is just as good, if not better than you. Like, don't settle just because you signed the paper. Like, I think that's the worst thing. And I don't care. You don't even have to be Power 5. Like this is how many kids do you watch who, whether it's D3, D2, D1, JUCO, NAIA, whatnot, even our area, not our area, whichever state, but they bust their ass 4 years. They're in the gym summer long. They go to AAU tournaments. They go to trainers. They lift. They do all this, and they sign that national letter of intent, or they become official. But then that spring and summer that they graduate, it probably their most important year, they actually take a step back, because now what these kids don't understand is your life is not as structured. And when grades, whatever, K through 12, your life is blocked out for you, for at least 9 months out of a year. You're going to be in school from 7:50 to 3. You're going to have practice from 3 until 5. You got to get in your homework. You got to get in whatever chores mom and dad have for you. You want to go watch this volleyball game or that football game. Like your life is very structured. Then when you graduate high school, you lose that structure, because you were probably a multi-sport athlete. So, in June you were doing this, you had summer leagues, you went to this camp, you went to that camp, in July you started a veer to play for that fall sport, or you had to do this, or, you picked back up playing, on your club team. Well, once you graduate high school, it's done. So now the ball literally comes to your court with what you're going to do. I think a lot of times kids just get complacent because they're not held accountable. So whether you're a Power 5 or you're D3, you're going into a situation where you're not their only recruit. And everyone coming in is just as good, if not better than you. And I can guarantee you, if you think you're hungry, the other 10 people, 4 people, 5 people, whatever that class is 10 times hungrier than you are. So I mean, it's very important, and I don't know if it needs to be a pressure. There should be a pressure to where, if anything, it's a pressure not to settle. Like don't settle just because you finally, got to that pinnacle in your life. So you close a one chapter, you still have another chapter to write, but in order to do that, you need to pick up the pen and start to do something with it. And a lot of times, I think you see a lot of kids, they put the period at the end of that chapter and they're like, okay, flip the page, chapter 2. And then they wait until they get to on campus to start to write. And you really need to start to do it probably, April, May, June before you even graduate.
I think that's a trap you can fall in no matter what you're doing in life, whether you're an athlete or you're just working hard at your job. Like you set that one goal and you reach it, but you don't necessarily set the bar right after you do that to the next goal. You just kind of, I worked so hard, I reached this goal, I've done it, and then it's like, okay, what next? And then you get the middle section of
Right.
You have to immediately set a new goal, and if you don't, like you said, you'll take a step back.
Well, life kind of sets you up to kind of be lazy. It's always going to give you dichotomies. Like here's your problem. What's your solution? You can either sit there and you can talk about it. You either become the victim or you become the villain. And eventually, if you're going to be that high level of an athlete, you got to be okay with turning yourself into the villain. What's the difference between a victim and a villain? Generally, the victim is sitting there, talking about everything that's happened to him. The villain's the one sitting there creating everything that they want to happen, all the way around. So the worst thing you can do is just sit there and do nothing. You can find every problem. I got sick. I have to work. I have summer class. Well, break down 24 hours. If I give you 8 hours of sleep, you're a college kid, you're working, so we'll say 8 hours a day. That gives you 16 hours to do something, whether it's an hour of, shooting or hitting practice or throwing or anything, that still gives you another, 7 hours to do whatever you want. And that's not cutting into your sleep time. If I'm taking, 8 a.m. to, whatever, 10, 11, or however many hours these kids need to sleep, it's probably only like 3 or 4. But when you start to marginalize it all down, you have plenty of time, but you spend more time saying I can do it here in the next hour or 15 minutes opposed to, anything else. So it's easy to find the excuse. It's just sometimes they just need to stand up and go do it. And I think once they do, naturally, that hunger comes back, but it's easy to sit there and not want to do it than it is to actually just get up and do it.
What I struggle with in the first couple months of college, and I wasn't even an athlete, the fact that no one is forcing you to do the work or go to class. Like there's no, like if you don't do it, the teachers don't care. They're like, cool, whatever.
Right.
One less thing that I have to grade. When in high school, they would go the extra mile to try to, get you to where they wanted you to be. And I think coaches are probably the same way. Like, yes, college coaches, the best ones, they care about you, but they're not going to go that extra mile to try to get you to do the work that they expect you to do.
Right.
Like high school coaches will.
Now, maybe if you're a Power 5, you probably have, you have, these tutors and people who hold you a little more accountable because they're tied into you,
Right.
financially a little bit more. But I remember going into orientation and my freshman year, like I always told myself, they're like, oh, math class, 9:30 a.m. And I was like, oh man, that's easy. I'm used to being up at 7 a.m., because I had to be at school by 7:50. It's a 10-minute walk, it's not going to be that bad. Well, what no one told me is I had the freedom to, I can, if I wanted to go out and walk the streets of Akron at 11 p.m. to go get a gyro down at Euro Gyro, I could do it.
Right.
If I wanted to go watch whatever silly show was on MTV with my buddies down the hall or, go play video games, I could do it. And, you miss that one class, you're like, oh man, that was, it was easy to sleep in. And I'll just get it to, I only have class Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. Well, I miss Monday. I'll get back and I'll get caught up on it on Wednesday. Well, what no one told me was what I missed on Monday. I missed not only Monday's work, but Tuesday's work and what we were going to be going over on Wednesday. So I was essentially 3 days behind. So, sleeping in was easy, but, playing catch up is a lot more harder than if I just would have, woke my ass up and went to class.
Right. There's no detention in college for being late. Like it's like, hey, whatever.
And look, I loved my professor. She was a great lady, but she didn't care. Like she was
Right.
like, oh, you don't want to show up, your grade's a 66. Well, you showed up 66% of the time. So you earned what you got. And I was like, I guess that's right. I did show up 66% of the time because I wanted to sleep the other 44%. And lesson learned. I didn't schedule a math class at 9 a.m. ever again, let alone any class. But it was easy to find that excuse to, well, I was up late, I can just miss one class. Before in high school, your alarm goes off, your mom wakes you up, Mom, I'm tired, I don't want to go. It was, no, get your butt out of bed. I'm dropping you off. I don't, brush your teeth. If you don't want to give yourself enough time to go eat breakfast, that's on you. But when you have that self accountability, which a lot of college kids get, and it's not just athletes, it's any kid going to college, you find it a lot easier to make excuses for yourself to not do something than to just do it. And if you just would have done it, it would have made your life 100 times easier.
And one of the things, it always made me laugh, but like especially the general education classes, there's always be that one or two guys that would show up like once for syllabus day, and then every test day you'd see him pop into the class, but you never see him again.
Oh,
and it just
it was what, there's a semester is 15 weeks. They were there like 3, maybe 4 total times. Like you said, syllabus day, they'd sit there and they'd look at it, and that professor would be like, oh, I'm going to put all the notes on PowerPoint or email it to you or whatever they have now. You're like, oh, great, I don't have to go. Then they'd be there, midterms, the week before finals, and they'd be there finals. And those are the people that probably angered you the most, because they're the one who got like a 99 in a class. And like here I am, like sitting there, like writing everything down, like to the T. This professor, I'm word for word, and then I like parentheses, professor sneezed. Maybe it meant something. And he kept going, and like you're drawing little pictures, and like I'm sitting there struggling to get like a 70%. And then my buddy Brandon shows up. He's like, yeah, I showed up. The notes were on the line. I just read through it. I got a 98. I'm like, dude, what are you taking? What do you have? Like superpowers? What is this stuff? It's crazy, but it's whether you're an athlete, student, no matter what it is, it's when you get to that certain point, it's self accountability becomes huge. Like it's easy to sleep in. It's as an adult, it's easy, to go out and meet with friends and stay out late and tell yourself you're going to hit the snooze 15 more times. But really what it comes down to is if you just do it, it's going to be 100 times easier if you just do it to get it done than trying to play catch up and really cram it all in because you missed so much before.
When I would meet those people that didn't seem like they were putting a lot of effort in, or they'd be able to coast and get a 98 or whatever. One of the things I'd always tell them is this might come easy to you, but at some point in your life, something is not going to be easy for you. And are you going to be prepared for that?
And those are the guys who or girls or whoever, they just breeze through. They get these great grades. They have it kind of set up, and I'm glad it's easy for them. But then, like you said, they get that big job right away, and they haven't had that dose of reality to where they had to, fight a little bit, or they've never been in a corner, so they don't know how to fight out of it. And they go get a job at Google or Uber or freaking Facebook or some big luxurious job, but then that job needs to make cuts. And they're looking at and kind of going all over because they don't know what to do, because everything was kind of like handed to them, where they just didn't have to network. And that's that's a lot of what life is networking. If I told you got a job, every job you've gotten is probably because you knew someone, and you sat there and you thought about it. You're like, holy cow. How many people apply for a job that like if I went and I applied for a job at I don't know, like Baron Rings, I could probably get the job at Baron Rings because I know the owner of Baron Rings. But if I went and applied for a job at, what's a competitor, Jostin Rings, just on a whim,
right,
they're probably throwing my resume out because they're like, who's this dude? They just had 900 college students apply for it with a better, more promise and everything. And that's generally how it sets up when you come out of college. Is college should be a lot more about networking and just doing those little things, even as an athlete, an hour of shooting a day going into your first year is going to save you a lot of hassle, opposed if you don't do anything for 3 months and then here comes the first day of conditioning and you can't breathe, your arms feel like spaghetti and your lungs are on fire. Well, if you just would have put in that hour of work and worked with the people who you networked with years before, it's going to be a lot easier than just showing up and thinking you can just do it all on your own and one little day. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and that's the great thing about sports is sports and life portray a lot of each other.
And if you're one of those people where education or your sport or whatever comes easy for you, that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I would just advise you to find something in your life that challenges you in that time frame. Because even though college, you get a lot more responsibilities and you get a lot more freedom, it's still that middle ground before you hit the real life, right? It's still that, it's middle ground between high school and reality, where you're still a little bit protected. You have a little bit of a bubble, and that's the perfect time to try to find something that's going to challenge you. That way, when you do get into the real world and life kicks you in the teeth, you're not completely unprepared because you've been able to coast through everything.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I've probably learned the jobs I didn't want to have than having the job that I love to have. And that was just, I didn't want to be a dishwasher, but being a dishwasher actually made me work my way up to where I got to help manage a kitchen, which, manage a kitchen. We got to do some things. We cooked for LeBron and did a couple of his events, but, I wasn't ever going to try to be the next Gordon Ramsay or, a world-renowned chef, but that kind of like stepped me up to, it showed me that, you started at the lowest point of being in a kitchen as a dishwasher, and then, you work your way up, and then here we go, that restaurant closes. So now I have to come back, and now I'm, working in a warehouse, and then I go and I work at a different warehouse, and you do a bunch of these other jobs that they were just they were jobs, nothing fun, nothing luxurious, but it's a weird way, and somehow it's just all part of the process, which, it's going to put you where you need to be one way or another. Sometimes you get those people, like you said, it all comes easy. Look, man, God bless you. I'm happy for you. Some of us other ones, it just doesn't. But eventually, the ones who start out at what they don't want to do, I think they naturally start to look at, they learn to love the process more just because they're in the process personally, opposed to, if everything's handed to you in your life, you just always focus on the outcome. And right. That's the worst thing is, for going back to these athletes, when they sign that NLI, that's their outcome, but that's their outcome of the high school career. That's not, and the general or gist of things, that's still a part of the process to, whatever you want to be. If you're going to college to be a nurse or, a dental hygienist or whatever, you sign that paper, you still got to understand the next 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is you're going to school, you still have a process through that. So you can't just, I think kids lose sight that, signing that paper is not necessarily the outcome. It's just a big, stopping point of the process. It's like playing Mario and you got the little star thing so that if you died, you went right back to that spot. Yep. It's a milestone, but it's not the end goal.
And the other thing is, eventually sports end, like for everybody, no matter what, there's going to be a day where you're not playing anymore. What do you fall back on? What's your checkpoint then?
Well, that's a big thing that I tell kids when they're going through this recruiting process. What school do you like? You kind of get the feeling, and then also, what's your career path? What are you looking to do? Because eventually, even if you go on to, and we'll say a Danny or a Deschanette or someone, they go play in Europe, or they're fortunate enough to make the WNBA, like, even by age 30, 35, like that sport's going to stop. So you're not even halfway through your life. Right. What else are you going to do? So even through this recruiting process, like, you tell them, you know, basketball is going to end, softball is going to end, football is going to end. What do you want to do with your life? Like, it's not like you're 7 and you say, I want to be a football player the rest of my life. Like, okay, so that 1%, less than 1% who make the NFL, they get to be a football player the rest of their life because they've generally made the money that they don't have to do anything else. But, you know, what are you going to do? So that's always got to be something you look at when you're looking to choose these schools. Like, hey, I remember going through this with Courtney Haddock last year, and she really liked 2 different schools. She's like, I really like this one, but I like this one. This one's a lot more like my hometown, but I like the style of play this one. This one has my, you know, my what I want to study and be the rest of my life. This one I would have to do it for 2 years, then go off campus, and it kind of turns into, you know, a process. And I said, my only thing is the game is going to stop eventually. You playing the game is going to stop, you know, so which school is going to set you up to really propel you into the next chapter of your life, which at that point is going to become your career.
Have you ever coached someone or known someone that like they fell in love with the program, they love the coach there, but the college just doesn't offer what they really envisioning going into school for? And they have to kind of make that decision of, do I keep looking even though I love this coach and I love this program, or I have to maybe amend what I want to do in the future, amend what I want to study, try to find something that fits in my niche in this university? Like going through that kind of decision where they maybe find a coach in a program that they love, but the school doesn't offer necessarily what they envision themselves doing after their sport.
I think it happens more times than not, honestly. Like, naturally, you know, you get attached or attracted to certain coaches and programs and styles, you know, but that school is, we'll say it's a fine arts school, and it's not a, you know, whatever, educational school, especially with these smaller colleges, because they generally have a focus on, you know, whatever it may be. You know, I think sometimes those players kind of expand their mind a little bit and look into maybe different things that they'd like to study, and they shock themselves that they're like, oh wow, you know, I want to go get into, you know, engineering, and they always wanted to be a nurse or something like that. And it's not comparable, but it kind of is, as far as, you know, it expands their mind. You know, you get some players like that, then it's easy. But then you get some players or people to where they're like, I really like this coach, I really like this program, but, you know, it's just not gonna, in the long run, it's not good for me. And, you know, sometimes you got to tell those, you know, if that's a discussion, the first thing that I tell an athlete is just be upfront with that coach. Like, hey, I love you as a coach. I love your program, your message, your energy, everything. But, you know, for me personally, it's not going to be a good fit for what I want to be or what I want to do. Don't burn bridges, because I can tell you this right now, a lot of times that coach is going to end up somewhere else, or they know someone else. You know, the college coaching circuit that circle so small that a lot of those times, like, if you would tell Coach XYZ, like, hey, you know, I don't want to go here because your program just doesn't offer what I need. You know, they'll be the first ones to congratulate you or be like, hey, if there's anything, or I know this coach there, let me reach out to them. You know, it happened to, actually, I'll say she didn't go to either of these schools, but, you know, I'll speak about her again just because I know what happened to her. She reached out to a school, or a school reached out to her. She did a visit, and it just didn't have anything that she could do. And she's like, she told the coach, she goes, look, I'd love to play for you. I love your style, everything, but it's just not going to be a good fit because how it's going to prolong my schooling to get to my career. And then, you know, that coach was like, hey, perfect, but I know a couple of these people, let me reach out to them. And you know, it's kind of just it's back to the whole networking thing.
Got another comment from Chris Sigler.
Right. I mean, you know, there's been a couple schools, you know, to where you've had friends like most recently, or what happened to me personally is, you know, Akron ended their baseball career or their
Right.
baseball team years ago, and they brought it back. Well, a lot of my friends were on that team. You know, some of them reopened up their recruitment. You know, there was a good handful of them who stayed there just because they enjoyed the school. They enjoyed what they're getting out of it. So the best thing is you're always going to have that feeling, like that gut feeling, if you know it's a right spot or not. And I remember when Molly Howard was getting recruited, she texted me after her visit to IUP, and like I told her, I was like, I can tell already that this is a school, just because I could like you could feel her smiling through her text message she was sending to me, and I was like, and like Molly's not a super emotional girl. She's very even keel, but I was like, I was like, I can tell you found the right school just because how you're reacting, and you know, you're talking more about how comfortable you were at the school than you were about the program. Now, granted, IUP is still a very good program. You know, 7 years with 20 plus wins. You know, always in the top 25, if not top 10. So, you know, that helps. But you could just tell that she felt comfortable that, you know, you're taking a girl from a town of 2 square miles and maybe, you know, 400 people, and sending her 2 hours to the east and a city of 30,000 people. She felt at home, which to me, that's probably 75% of the battle, opposed to, you know, the sport.
You know, I didn't really understand that whole dynamic as just an outside fan until I remember YSU volleyball brought in a setter that was spent her freshman season at Division III, excelled immensely, and transferred up into Division I. I think she was at Hiram and then came up. But anyway, you know, the coach there at the time, Coach Hardaway, and everyone kind of understood like she could have gone higher than YSU with the way she was playing, but she came to YSU because of the nursing program, and it has a really good nursing program.
Right.
She wanted to be a nurse, and she kind of foregoed, you know, higher standards of the sport to you know, go into the nursing program at YSU. And for a minute, like as a fan, I was like shaking my head. I was like, geez, you could have went and played for, you know, an Ohio State or a Big Ten school or whatever. And sometimes that, especially in a girl sport, because, you know, professional avenues are so small, that you gotta look at the career first.
Oh, yeah. I think girls do that a lot better than guys, though, too. Like naturally, girls just have more of a internal timetable, of, you know, they just have a little bit more direction and they mature a little bit quicker. So I think sometimes girls do look at that a little bit more than guys do, and it's not, you know, a good or bad thing. It's just kind of maybe a little bit more of a natural thing, to where I think girls look more, okay, they understand that the sport is going to stop. You know, what am I going to do with my life, you know, by age 22, 23, you know, that internal timetable, you know, they just want to be a little more settled down and established in the mid 20s, or at least have a direction. And it's not true for everyone. You know, I know just as many guys who are there, but, you know, when you throw in sports, I think guys will look a lot more at who's interested in them and if they can just go play, to where girls kind of vet it out a little bit more, to where, okay, this university or this school has more of a program tailored towards me, and they go more towards that program, you know. And I think, you know, naturally people in our area, you're not going to see too many people venture out, you know, 120 miles. You know, you have people in this area who are naturally just homebodies, which, you know, it's a great thing about our area because we have a lot of tight knit communities, but also once you get people who get that taste of that independence, you know, then they kind of venture out a little bit more too. So, you know, like you said, YSU has a phenomenal nursing program. You have some of the top nursing programs between YSU, Kent, Akron, you know, just around here. it would be very easy for a top level athlete, if that's something that they want to get into, to choose one of I guess a mid-major school, opposed to maybe just going after a standard business degree at an Ohio State or Cincinnati, Kentucky, whatever it may be. So it's until you know the story, but when you say it like that, it makes 100% complete sense.
And I think one of the other reasons, when you look at guys versus girls, I think it's because guys can fall into the dream a little bit harder because there are the big sports and they're on the big stage and it's easily obtainable. You ask any young baseball player or football player like NFL, MLB, but there are a lot of softball players that don't even know that there's professional softball, and there is, but it's very small. And there might be, I think, there are 2 leagues, so you have about 75 players playing professionally right now outside of the national teams. So, unless you're one of the 75 best softball players in the country, you're not
Right.
playing professionally. And that might be one of the reasons why, girls are easier to have that conversation with themselves, because they either don't know that that's an attainable dream, or it's just one of those ones that is like so over the top unrealistic that they can't really fall into the dream as hardly as someone that wants to play professional baseball can, because they realize that there's so many avenues. There's still not a lot of avenues to do it, but it feels like there is, because it's a much bigger sport on a bigger stage.
Well, yeah, and this isn't to dive into sexism or Title IX
Right.
or any of that, but like you have, like you said, a lot more avenues for men to be professional athletes than female athletes. I mean, and I'm not even like diving into the pay difference or anything like that, but naturally it swings more towards men or boys side of things, to where we're getting there. It's going to be a long process, but when you have 32 major league baseball teams, that also doesn't include your AAA, your AA, your single A, on top of whatever other farm team, this and that. Like you have thousands of potential baseball players. You only have still 75 softball players.
Right.
So it's just, even basketball side. You have 32 professional basketball teams, or whatever it is, 30.
And then their G leagues and
G leagues, and you can go play in Canada and and Europe, and yes, you can still do the same thing, as a female, but you also have former professional basketball players going over to China and making $40 million.
Right.
You have WNBA players going over to Europe to make $30,000 because they're only making $40,000 here. So it's just, I guess the way to put it, there's more opportunity on the guy side right now, just because it's bigger, it makes more money, this and that. I think the girl side is going to get there. I think even from our standpoint, or the lower levels of high school, we can do a better job of really selling that. Like I would, and who I work for, he's down this whole path of boy girl double headers. I think it's a great idea. You have female participation in sports in Ohio is actually dropping compared to, I think it's like Mississippi, it's up like over 1,200%. It's dropping, like it's down like 45%. If we continue those trends, is that because sports are becoming a little bit more specialized, or we need to find a common denominator as to why, to where boys is still growing. So some of it is, there's some questions to be asked, but boys also kind of get a little bit more opportunity and a little bit more of the limelight too.
When you get frustrated about those things, I think it's easy. You have to remember the reality is women's sports are a lot younger than men's sports are, because
Right.
they got a late start. So, that's the reality. And I'm sure if you looked at some of those professional sports 30 years into their conception, even on the boys' side back in history, they weren't exactly the popping yet, so
Well,
you got to give stuff time.
and I agree. Like, people say, well, look at WNBA numbers. Well, the WNBA has only been around 22 years. think it started in '99 or something like that. You know, the NBA has been around for however long. You know, look at everything. Look at the history of things, and you know, it kind of peaked here, and it really didn't grow until here. The girls' game is definitely growing. I think sometimes it's just unfair to compare the two genders or the two different, you know, NBA to WNBA. It's just like you said, the longevity of certain things. There's just been, you know, female sports is still kind of in its infancy, and even, you know, all around on any sport, you know, compared to even other countries. So we're getting there, and I think it's going to take a couple different parts to where, you know, we'll say the WNBA, you know, NBA players got to buy into it. You know, it all comes full circle. We all just have to, you know, promote one another out of it too.
I think it was a lot easier to be patient back in the 1920s when some of the other professional men's sports leagues started than it is now. I think everyone wants it to be, you know, at the peak right now, and they want things now because we're such an impatient kind of culture now.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
think that's where you fall into the trap of not realizing how young women's sports really is in the grand scheme of things.
Well, and like you said, we get everything instantly, and you know, to keep someone's attention, like even scrolling through the internet, if you don't like a video in 3 seconds, you scroll up and you're at a different one, or you don't like what someone, you just keep scrolling. So, you know, to keep someone's attention, that's a huge thing, opposed to, you know, 1920s, your entertainment were sports.
Right.
You know, now we have, you know, we can watch sports, or we can sit here and jump on TikTok and watch people make silly dances or different things. You know, we just have so many different, you know, things accessible at our fingertips. You know, it's very easy to not have patience.
Yeah, and we definitely thank our viewers for keeping their attention on Running Point today. And it was a great conversation with Coach Bill Jackson of Waterloo Girls Soccer earlier. And EB, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to hop on with us today. As far as on the network tonight, the Mahoning Valley Scrappers return home, and they will be hosting West Virginia at 7:05. Richie Giuliano will have the call on that. They are in a 6-game homestand at Eastwood Field, and the opportunities to go to Eastwood Field are running short, as they have, I think, a total of 12 home games left, if I'm not mistaken. The schedule's not in front of me right now, but not a lot of opportunities to go see the Scrappers remaining, and so you want to make sure that you take advantage of the opportunities while they're here. Once again, a 6-game homestand for the Scrappers as they try to get back on track in the second half of the draft league. Richie Giuliano will have the call tonight at 7:05. The only show on the network tonight is we are in a kind of a breath period where we are getting ready for fall sports, and once that hits the ground running, we will be busy every night once again, but we're kind of taking a breath. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Casual Sports Podcast coming up next from 2 to 3. Power Hour from 3 to 4 today. Yesterday's Power Hour was impressive. The news that broke on the 440 and goal guys joining YSN, and we can't wait to expand our coverage for them and expand their coverage for from us. So it's going to be a great partnership. I'm sure DJ has more in store in the Power Hour today from 3 to 4, and then the Scrappers come on at 7:05 on YSN. Richie Giuliano on the call. Eric, thank you so much for popping on with us again, and we hope to see you soon. Maybe you can pop in on Running Point with me and Ty someday.
Definitely, like I said, it's everyone's breath right now. And look, if you want to listen to the voice of an angel, Richie has got your call, because that dude, he's just fun. He could make watching paint dry fun. So he has the gift.
We talked about guys that like take schooling and they feel like they can do it effortlessly. Sometimes when I listen to Richie, and I've worked with him, I've done YSU volleyball with him, I've done a couple of basketball games with YSN with him. Sometimes it feels like he says effortlessly just sit down and he can call sports. I know it's not. I know he does a lot of preparation work and he does a lot of work that people don't see, but sometimes it feels like he's just one of those guys that can just do it without any kind of stress or hard work putting into it. He just kind of sits down and does it. And that's how good he is.
It is, but like you said, he does a lot of back end work. You know, even on high school games, I remember playing Canfield, and like before he's coming down, he's like, "Hey, I want to know, you know, what this person, that person, how do you pronounce it?" Like he's he would be like the Division I player of announcers. You know, he's the one who does it effortless, and we're sitting here like struggling. Like,
Right.
you got the A's for only showing up to class 3 times, but the dude puts in a ton of work. You know, he really loves his craft, and he's mastered it, and he puts in the work for it.
He's definitely reading the PowerPoint notes in his dorm.
Oh,
to stay with that
100%.
metaphor.
100%.
Me and Ty will be back tomorrow from 12 to 2. We have Steve Boyle, the head coach of the Howland football team. Won't be joining us live, but we'll be getting him right before the show. So we'll be able to play that interview pre-recorded. We'll also have Brian Tolnar and Scotty on tomorrow as well. And then Thursday kicks off our volleyball coverage. So we have a fun week ahead.